everyone and welcome to my channel. I hope that you are all good. In today's video we have an autumn acrylic design set, so I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now, to start off with, I am working on my Glamerliz practice hand and I have already applied my tips and a thin clear acrylic base. Here I have used Diamond Nail Supply's Clarity, and that's the acrylic system that I'm going to be using throughout, so I will leave a link in the description box below to the Diamond Nail Supply's website, as long as the names of all the colours I use, because we do use a couple in this set. So I'm starting off with their core acrylic colour called Sassy here, which is a gorgeous peach colour with a bit of a shimmer to it, and we're going to be building a extended nail bed. Now, to start off my extended nail bed, I always place down the bead that's going to be creating my smile line, and then I blend the back of that bead into the natural nail plate, and then I'm using the sides of my brush here to create that smile line shape. I wanted this one to be fairly deep and quite rounded, but I have played around with it and got it as neat as I can with my brush, but I do file it crisp to perfect that. Once I'm happy with the shape, I move on to apply my next bead of acrylic, and this bead of acrylic I'm tucking up into that cuticle area and basically building the rest of that extended nail bed. So I took it from side to side and then I'm blending it down the nail. I did have a little bit of trouble blending this out, as I had picked the bead up a little bit dry and I was working a little bit slow as well. So I'm just doing my best to blend this down just so there's not a kind of like a huge ridge where one bead of acrylic ends, and also I didn't want any shadowing between the two beads of acrylic as well. I did come in with another bead of acrylic just to touch up the sidewall here, as I had created a little bit of a gap. It wasn't going over to the side as much as I wanted it to, so I'm getting that as neat as I can, and then again just blending this in. I have to say it's been a little while since I've done acrylic nails. It's been a couple of weeks I think, and I did one nail the other day and I've just felt a little bit out of touch, so please do bear with me. Now, moving on to the middle finger. So basically I'm going to leave my extended nail bed to set because I do want to file that into shape a little bit better. I wasn't 100% happy with the shape, so I'm going to leave that to set and then move on to the middle finger. And here I'm coming in with Diamond Nail Supply's Silk. Now, this is such a gorgeous white. It's still quite a bright white, but it is a little bit softer than their other white acrylic, but it is so easy to work with. Sometimes white acrylics can be quite sticky because they are quite highly pigmented, and that can make them a little bit harder to work with, but this one is an absolute dream to work with. So as you can see, I've placed that really thin layer of this down. I want there to be the pigmentation up in the cuticle area and the middle of the nail, but I don't need to take that colour all the way down to the tip of the nail because we're going to be doing a glitter fade. And for the glitters today, I'm using a couple from Smileys glitter store. So this one's Champagne Spritz, and the next one I'm going to be popping over the top of this is called Chameleon. Now, I've had these a good couple of years, so I don't 100% know if they are still available, but I will check, and if they are, I'll leave all the information in the description box below. But Chameleon is quite a chunky glitter, so I wanted a finer glitter to put underneath. So I've gone for the Champagne Spritz, placed that down, picking up a small bead of clear acrylic, and then I've blended that back, and then as you can see, I'm coming over the top with that chunky glitter mix. Now, this does have some smaller glitter pieces in there, but it is just predominantly large hexes, so it can be a little tricky to work with when you're wanting to do a glitter fade because you haven't got as many smaller pieces in there. So that was why I wanted to come in with that smaller, finer glitter mix underneath, just so I can get full coverage at that tip of the nail and everything looks super sparkly. And then I'm just blending this out, creating that glitter fade. I have picked up some of the smaller glitter pieces from that Chameleon mix and I'm just nudging them around, keeping everything quite thin as well. You don't want to apply your glitters too bulky. Then off camera, I filed my smile line into shape. As you can see, it looks a lot better now than it did before. And then I always clean up the nail of any dust that might be left after brushing it off with my wet brush before coming in with my bead of acrylic. And as you see at the start of the video, on this nail, we're kind of doing a triple French tip. So we're coming in first of all with that gorgeous silk, and I'm creating my smile line, but I'm not taking this all the way down to the end of the nail. I'm basically just creating another extended nail bed, so I'm doing exactly the same as I did before. So I'm using the sides of my brush to create the shape, and then I'm using the top and belly part of my brush to pat that acrylic out. taking it right down into those wings as best as I can, but I don't stress too much with that first bead of acrylic if I can't get it right down into the wings of the nail, because I can come in and fix that up with smaller beads, which is what you'll see me do here soon. At the moment, I'm just working with that first bead of acrylic and creating the shape. Same as before when we were doing the extended nail bed, I'm trying to get the shape as good as I can with my brush so that then there is minimal filing to do. And here is where I just come in with those small beads of acrylic just to get down into those little gaps so that there was no gaps at the sides, because I wanted this French to look quite deep. It doesn't matter if your bead of acrylic, so it doesn't matter here if the white is going over the extended nail bed, because we can file all that excess off as long as you have created a nice crisp smile line when you've done your extended nail bed. It doesn't matter if you come over the top of that in any way with your next colored acrylic. Gosh, I can't get my words out today. It's been a long day and it's only Tuesday. Moving on to the pointer finger, I'm coming in with this gorgeous color from Diamond Nail Supplies again. This one is Rosie. I was going to use the Sassy for this part of the nail, but I just wanted something a little bit darker because it is more of an autumnal set. This one again though does have that really pretty shimmer to it. It's kind of just a darker, more kind of peachy beige colour. So I added in this and I've just placed this down at the free edge of the nail and blended it back. We are going to kind of be doing a bit of an ombre, so I went to make sure to blend it back so there's not a harsh line or where that acrylic ends. And then whilst that acrylic is still tacky, I'm pressing down some of these orange flowers. Now if you do find your acrylic underneath has dried and these aren't going to set in place, you can just pop down a wash of clear acrylic, but as it was quite cold in the room I was working in, the acrylic hadn't set up just yet, so I was able to press them down into that tacky acrylic, and then we're picking up some glitter. So I'm just picking up a really few little pieces here and there and running them through those dried flowers. I didn't want to add too much glitter to this nail, but then I am going to add on a little chunky bit here because this is going to kind of be under our ombre, so I wanted there to still be a little bit of glitter that you could see coming through because it won't necessarily have the shine. So I did pop down a few more pieces there and a couple of those chunky pieces. And then once I'm happy with this, I am going to pop a wash of clear acrylic down just to hold everything in place. I'm not encapsulating at this point. I just don't want it to move around when it comes to applying my white acrylic. So I'm just going to pop down a thin layer just to hold everything in place. And whilst I'm waiting for that to set, we're going to jump back to the ring finger. So again, off camera, I filed that beautiful silk. And then I've cleaned it up with my brush, and here we're going to come in and do our next layer of our smile line with those two glitters. So I'm coming in with the Champagne Spritz first of all, just because this is a bit finer. I probably could have skipped this step and just used the Chameleon, because what I ended up doing is tipping the Chameleon glitter out onto a little glitter tray, and then I was able to pick out the finer pieces a little bit more. But the reason I popped the Champagne Spritz down is because I just wasn't sure if I was going to get enough coverage using just the chunky Chameleon glitter. So as you can see, I've picked up a teeny tiny wet bead of acrylic, and I'm keeping my brush as wet with Monomer as possible so that I can easily move those glitter pieces around. Now when I'm saying I'm keeping it quite wet, it's not dripping wet. I've dipped it into my Monomer and then I've still drained off a little bit, but I'm keeping it wetter than what I would if I was working with my acrylic, just because the wetter your brush is, the easier it is to move those glitter pieces around without them all sticking into your brush. Then again, using a teeny tiny bead of clear acrylic, I've dipped into the Chameleon glitter and I'm just nudging that around on top of the Champagne Spritz and just creating a smile line shape. As you can see, same as what we did with the acrylic, I'm using my brush to sort of carve out that smile line shape. This was a little bit tricky because I didn't want this layer of the smile line to be too thick, but these glitter pieces are quite large, so I still wanted to make sure I fit some down so we had that colour and it was all flowing through the set. Using the very tip of my brush, I'm taking that glitter right down into the wings of that nail, just getting down there as best as I can, picking up sometimes just one or two pieces of glitter at a time and placing them down just so we had that pop of that greeny orangey colour that comes from the Chameleon glitter. And then we are going to encapsulate that, and when it comes to encapsulating this is where you can carve out your shape as well. So any glitter pieces, you can kind of push them into that clear acrylic and create the rounded shape for your smile line. So here you can see I'm patting over the surface of it and I'm kind of alternating between patting out the surface and getting a nice flat smooth surface, and then also coming in with the edges on my brush to create that shape. exactly the same as before. I want to do as much work as I can with my brush, so I've got minimal filing to do, as it can be a little bit tricky filing these smile lines, especially when you're working on something like a practice hand, as a lot of the time all of the filing I do on my practice hand, I take the tips out to file it on it, so it makes it tricky trying to hold a tip and file the smile line. So I do try and do as much of the work for that shape with my brush. Then once I'm happy with this, I am just actually making sure that all of that glitter is encapsulated. If any of your glitter is not encapsulated, when it comes to your finish filing, you're just gonna file off the glitter, and you're also gonna have a nail that hasn't got full structure because there's not acrylic encapsulating in that glitter, and there's obviously no strength in your glitter. So you do need to make sure that you are fully encapsulating all of your glitter and building up the strength and structure of the nail. We're then going to leave that to set and jump back to the pointer finger. In these kind of design sets, there is a lot of jumping backwards and forwards, but it's okay because it saves you time when you're doing a full set. You don't just want to be sitting there waiting for something to dry. You can always be working on another nail while you are waiting for example, in this situation, the French to set. So I've moved on, I've come back in with the silk, and I've placed down quite a medium to wet bead so it blends out nicely over the acrylic and nail art we've got on the nail. Blended that down, keeping it nice and clean as it comes down towards the middle and the tip of the nail. I don't want to take that white too far down the nail. This white acrylic, like I said, it's very easy to work with, so it's brilliant for ombres and stuff because it fades out effortlessly. But as you can see, I'm just blending this out, keeping my brush quite wet so I can clean up any areas where we've popped that layer of clear acrylic over the nail art as well. That stops any of the white acrylic getting stuck in between the flowers and the glitters as well, which makes it a lot easier to blend. Then we're going to move on to our little finger, and on the little finger I decided to do a marble. So I've double dipped first of all into the Rosie and the silk just to get a nice neat cuticle line. Then I'm coming in with Rosie, blood orange, Sassy and the silk. So all four colours that I've used throughout the set, or three of the colours I've used throughout the set, and then we've added in the blood orange. I added that in because I wanted to hit a little hint more of a brighter orange than what the flowers were giving off. So as you can see, I've placed down a wet beads of the acrylic, and then I'm just bringing my brush to a point and marbling through them. At this point here, I placed these beads down and I'm not 100% happy with how the marble went. I got distracted there when I was picking up my next bead of acrylic, and it just meant the marble didn't marble as well as I wanted it to because that first bead of acrylic had dried. So what you see here, I'm not happy with how that looks, so I'm patting it out and flattening it out so that I can come over it and basically do the marble again. So I come right over the top of that acrylic with three of the colours again, clean off my brush, bring it to a point, and I'm just dragging through, creating that marble effect. Cleaning up the sidewalls, you want to make sure that you haven't got your acrylic running over the edges of the nail, and then we're just going to finish off that very tip. At the tip I didn't add in any more of the orange, I just used the silk and the Rosie, and I do quite like how this marble turned out. I love the blood orange, and it's quite a summery colour, but I wanted to get it in an autumn set as well. Then whilst that acrylic is still tacky, I'm going to tap in just a few of those teeny tiny Chameleon glitter pieces because I wanted to make sure that every nail had a little bit of sparkle in it. And I do usually add in kind of like a line of glitter or a glitter somewhere in my marbles because I do love glitter. So I'm just tapping these on here and there. I didn't end up adding loads, just a little hint here and there. And this probably was my least favorite nail in the set. I just wasn't 100% happy with it, but I do feel as though adding in that glitter massively helped pull all of the colors of the set together. And now finally we need to do the very last layer on our French tip. So I just cleaned up there. It looked like I was adding clear acrylic, but I wasn't. I was just running over the nail with my wet brush, and then I'm coming in with a thin layer of that blood orange. I'm predominantly applying this down just so I've got a base for my flowers because otherwise they would have had the more clear tip, and I wanted a bit more of the orange to pop and come through in this set. So I'm popping down a very thin layer of this just pretty much for the colour. Again, getting right down those edges as that's where the colour is going to pop and help show you the definition. And then into that wet acrylic, I'm tapping on the same dried flowers that I use on the pointer finger. These particular ones are from Charlie's Nail Art, and they don't pop as much as they did on the pointer finger because they've got the darker colour base, but I really liked how it looked. I thought it just added an extra kind of extra something special to the tip of the nail. This nail was my favorite nail in the set. It was the hardest to do, and these kind of designs are quite time consuming, but I loved how it turned out. I need a little bit more practice with my Frenches. I always say this, they've always been the thing I struggle with the most, but I loved how this looked with all the different layers of that French tip. So I'm coming in and encapsulating in those flowers and just building up the thickness for the very tip of the nail, making sure that clear acrylic goes right down the edges as well, as I had only added a thin layer of acrylic. Now for this particular set, I did do all of the rest of the encapsulating on the other 3 nails and all of the filing off camera, just because the video was already quite long and I was out of shot for some reason on some of the encapsulating, and I hadn't recorded the filing anyway. So we do jump straight to what the nails looked like once they had been encapsulated and finished filed, and then we can jump straight to the best bit, which is applying the top coat. I love applying the top coat over an acrylic set because everything looks dull and matte, and then you come in and you apply your top coat and it just brings everything back to life, and I really liked how it made everything in this set pop. So I'm coming in, I'm using the Wow Bow top coat here today, and I'm just applying a thin layer of this to all of the nails. This does require a 60-second cure, so once I have popped this on all of the nails, I will pop them in to cure for 60 seconds. If you was applying this top coat on your own nails, or if you was working on a client, I would always recommend allowing your top coat a few seconds to cool when it comes out of the lamp before you come in and apply your cuticle oil. But I always skip applying cuticle oil when I'm working on the practice hand, as there are no cuticles to treat. So once I have finished top coating, I will leave a little picture and a clip of the finished result. So let me know in the comments below what you thought of this set. Are you all loving autumn nails? Is it autumn or fall, whichever you prefer to call it where you are? Here in the UK, we are actually still in the summer season, but the weather has turned very autumnal here in London. It's just been a bit grey and rainy, and all the leaves are starting to turn orange, and I love autumn, so I am so ready for it. But like I said, guys, I hope you all enjoyed watching today's video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would absolutely love it if you did. I will have lots more autumn content coming soon, so stay tuned. I hope you all are having an amazing week. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.